We have one last thing to take care of before the drywall crew arrives, installing our pantry pocket door frame. But we never talked about the huge design mistake we made at this door and all the reframing it took to fix it. So first we're doing a little flashback to get the opening ready. Then we'll install the door hardware, but this isn't just any off-the-shelf pocket door system. Today we're doing a little bit of new construction renovation, and that's changing this standard swing door for our pantry into a pocket door. When we initially designed the pantry with the swing door, we thought it would be fine, but the more we looked at it once it was already framed, we started to worry about potential interference between the full height pantry cabinet door that is in here and then the actual swing door into the room. There'll be a set of base cabinets along the whole back wall, so there's not gonna be quite as much room as there feels like now. So a YouTube channel that I've followed personally quite a while is Insider Carpentry, Spencer Lewis, really fantastic trim carpenter out of Indiana. And I've taken note to the pocket doors that he uses now on his builds, and they're all the same brand, HD Pocket Doors. They're a really solid quality American-made brand. So when it came time to do this switch, that was the first website I visited. We reached out to HD Pocket Doors. It's run by a gentleman named Mike Christner, awesome guy, and he was gracious enough to send us out this door for us to install in this pantry. So in this video, I am going to do my best reframing all this and installing that door. The first order of business is changing this wall from a 2x4 to a 2x6 wall and expanding our rough opening here. We originally framed this for a 32x80 door, I believe, which is the same size doors we'll use for the pocket door, but pocket doors require a much larger opening because all the track hardware needs to exist over here behind the drywall. So we went on Facebook Marketplace and we actually found an antique door that we liked. We bought it, I think it was only 20 bucks, but it's a 32x80 door as well, or close to it anyway. But to accommodate that thickness, it's 1 3/8 thick. We need to go to a 2x6 wall. It'll be a sturdier wall and allows a lot more room for the hardware within the thickness of the wall. And as a bonus, we will not let the unused space at the other end of the wall go to waste. I'm gonna put a little niche in the backside that pops open to the pantry that we can store our canned goods in and utilize that wall space between the studs. Here's the demo plan. I should be able to saw through the nails that are holding these guys in. Luckily, this end wall here was built separately from this wall. There's no overlapping top plates, so that should be a pretty clean break there. And depending how tight this top plate is anchored to my rafter, I do have the option to keep the last couple studs and just fur them out on the backside 2 inches. That'll give me my 5.5 inch wall thickness, and I can preserve that wall where it's at. This is just a simple interior wall. There's no load here, obviously, because we have our structural ridge beam roof. That's that big LVL right here. That's an 18-inch deep LVL. There's a better view of it, and these columns carry that load all the way down to a footing in the foundation. Oh, come on now. So I was all stuck. It's wedged. There's plenty of other blocking that I'll be able to use this wood for down the line, so don't worry, it will not go to waste. Just like that, the door is as loose as a goose. This is the last stud I need to take out. I think I'm going to keep the portal, sort of the top plate, the bottom plate, the sides, all there, and fur those out just because they're nice and in plane and plumb and everything. So I don't really want to disturb them if I don't have to. I think it'll be plenty sturdy enough with just what we have. Upon doing some measuring for where I need to cut this sill plate, we're gonna get really lucky with this. I already cut my little 5-inch plate over there that's going to be the right side of the door, and then measuring 65 inches over from the end of that, it just so turns out, this is the 65-inch mark, this line right here, but I have mid-span I-joist blocking that runs all the way underneath this floor, right between these 2 marks. So by cutting the plate right here, I'm still gonna be able to leave these 2 nails in here that anchor this to the I-joist blocking. And then I think I'm also gonna put just a piece of 2x4 that spans these 2 joists because we are parallel with the joists right now. So this wall is basically sitting on sort of a span of subfloor. So in order to make sure that thing is not gonna move, I'll put some blocking underneath the subfloor, a solid piece of blocking that I can lag through. And then I'll have to do something similar where the post for the door frame mounts, it'll be somewhere right here where the existing jamb was. With the tear out complete, here's the game plan for rebuilding this thing. I've taken out all the studs that I need to as far as the 2x4s go, and the ones that are remaining that I don't want to tear out just because they're perfectly good, plumb and straight, I'm gonna fur those out with the 2-inch piece of 2x4 that I just ripped down on the table saw. I guess I could have ripped all these out and just replaced them with 2x6s, but I had almost no leftover 2x6s from the main framing project, and I have tons of leftover 2x4s because of bracing, as well as the ones I just took out of this wall. So that's why I decided just to salvage what I could instead of just ripping out the whole thing. This is an interior non-load bearing wall, really just has the whole drywall and then this pocket door frame, which I'm gonna put some extra blocking below the subfloor, and I'm gonna make sure that that is well anchored for sure. I've got the bottom strip done. I'm just using 3-inch deck screws to hold that together. And honestly, from a distance, you can hardly tell that it's 2 pieces of wood. If you look at that end, it kind of looks like a 2x6 until you look a little bit closer. So I've got just this top slope piece left to go, and then the flat ceiling, and then we're ready to start adding 2x6s to this wall. On the right side of this door, there's just this piece of 5-inch little wall here. It's just basically a few studs laminated together. So to keep that from sort of twisting, I'm both gonna be anchoring it to this wall with blocking in the bottom, middle, and top. But I'm also gonna put this guy underneath the subfloor so that I can put some screws over here and sort of give that some leverage from this side, and I'll just put a couple subfloor screws in. So I started by putting this screw in to tell me where this blocking has gotta go roughly, and then I'll go from the bottom, screw it from the bottom side, and then finish screwing from the top. I think I'm gonna build this jamb in place so that this sole plate is anchored well, and then each successive board is really well fastened to each other and this wall. Once I had all the nails in from above, I pulled out the screws, mostly because they were a little long and stuck up through the subfloor. That is rock solid. This piece is just 5 inches, so it's gonna be our end full height stud, another king, and then a 84-inch tall jack to form our rough opening, and then a 1/2-inch piece of plywood spacer. So I already have all those pieces cut right here. Now it's just a matter of sandwiching them together with the nail gun. Since I'm using mostly scraps for this, they definitely are not the straightest boards. So I'm gonna get a little bit creative with my clamps in order to straighten them out before I fasten them. It's something that I have definitely learned a lot about in this project, working with imperfect lumber, because basically every piece is imperfect in some way, shape, or form. Some worse than others though, way worse than others. When I put that first board up, it had about a 3/8 inch crown. I didn't realize that until I was trying to get it in place and something just did not seem right. So I took it back down, stretched a line from one corner to the other, and it looks like a banana. But luckily I have a straighter board that I'm gonna start off with, and then I'm gonna laminate that one to it and sort of walk the crown out of it, fastening as I go up. Because our building process in the DIY fashion takes so long, a lot of the wood that we use dries out in between the time that we purchase it and need to install it, and that's when things get twisty. So I have learned a lot of wood straightening techniques. I've relied a lot on threaded fasteners, screws, to keep things straight, and clamps as well. But luckily it is possible with some patience and time. But in general, that is definitely the benefit of, you know, having a framing crew come and do everything in just a few days. All of the wood stays nice and straight until it's fastened, and then theoretically it stays straight. I say in theory because a 10-foot long 2x4 only anchored at the ends with a couple nails can still do some serious moving as it dries, which isn't a big deal except when there's a door, cabinet, or tile that goes on top of that 2x4. Well, that was a huge pain to get those things straight and fastened, but I was finally able to do it with enough screws. Goes to show that working with crooked lumber makes things take a lot longer, but that's the story when you're trying to use the scrap material you have and not go buy new lumber. Now I'm on to the second bit on the left side here. For this, I'm using my laser level to help mark out. Check this out. I have it on a temporary shelf here. It's projecting through to where my king stud ends over there, and that allows me to mark a line up top exactly where that king stud's got to be plumb. And because this is on a sloped ceiling, of course, it's going to be cut at an angle up there, so that helps me with that angle. I've cut the board, done a test fit. I think she's ready to go. Put some pocket screws on each side. Let's do it. I ended up using quite a few lag screws to get everything pulled tight. I think I got it. I did make one mistake though here. Check this out. Hopefully you can learn from this if you are framing a doorway in place in the future. My little laser trick did not work as well as I thought it would for getting that nice and plumb. It looked plumb and it was good by the level, but as far as getting a square door opening, it was not so. What I should have done was assemble the jack, this little header, and this jack, kind of just screw them together. That at least makes sure my header is the same width as my lower opening, as long as I, cut everything correctly. And then it's just a matter of plumbing it up. And this one I already plumbed, so with this plumb and that the same length as the bottom, that gives me a plumb jack here, and then I could have just set my king up against it, made a mark, and then measure. Well, I didn't do that. I tried to put the king first and it was not perfect. So I actually had to lean that king inwards a little more, and because I don't have much scrap left, I had to put a shim in there, which is really lame, but it is what it is. I used 2 long lags to hold that into the rafter and a piece of blocking, so it's very sturdy, but yeah, that is not ideal framing, and I know that. So I'm sweating up a storm. It's getting hot out here. We're in the afternoon now, and the last thing left to do is put cripples on. Got 5 cripples to put in, should be no issue. And then finally, the rough opening is done. I did double check plumb, level, square. We should be good there. It's just a matter of getting these cripples in, and then we can put the track up. Now for the fun part, and probably the much easier part as well, actually putting the door track in. This is packaged really well. The instructions are very explicit on how to unpack it because there are some things that are temporarily fastened together for shipping. I'm not going to go through step by step, but I can tell that the instructions are written by someone who's actually done work in the field and knows what they're doing, because I've done a lot of instruction reading throughout this project, and I can tell you they're not always like that. It's surprising how simple pocket doors actually are. They seem sort of scary and complicated from afar when you think about what's got to go on, but honestly, it's nothing more than a header with a track integrated into it, and then we have some steel side brackets. These are square tube steel, and they're really heavy duty, hence the heavy duty pocket door frame brand. Not all pocket doors are created equal, and the ones you see at the big box stores do not feature designs like this. Another nice feature of this is it comes with a cardboard protective track cover to keep sawdust and debris out of the track during construction, because it is a dusty mess in here. So that will go back on after it's all installed, but right now we're gonna set it aside. This is the T-floor guide. That's gonna go in last. These are our floor brackets that will be anchored to the floor. Now the header assembly is loose in here. There's 4 steel tubes, 2 bare ones and 2 with furring strips on them, presumably for the drywall to fasten to when it's all done. I started figuring out how everything goes together and inevitably got distracted with one of the 40 other ongoing projects for the build. I knew this would be easy to finish, so naturally I put it off until the absolute last day it needed to be done before drywall went on. After we got that rough opening framed, took a little bit of a hiatus to finish the whole exterior of the house and everything else pre-drywall. But now drywall is impending and we got to get this pocket door installed. So got everything unpacked here again, got our floor brackets, our jambs, the top header and LVL. I've watched the installation video and the guy on there did it in 10 minutes. So I don't know if I'm gonna quite beat that, but I'm gonna give it my best, and this does look really simple to do. Just gotta get a couple clamps, my impact, and we should be off to the races. These are called the track covers that need to get removed. These are long screws. Wow. It's almost like a drywall screw, but it's super long. Never seen a screw like that. Oh, come on, Alex. Learn how to use a screwdriver. Set these aside for now. We got the soft close too, so there is a little bit of extra work to do with that. I will get into that once it's all done, I think. I think that makes sense to do it when it's installed. Maybe it doesn't make a difference, but I'll figure it out then. Get my clamp ready there. Oh, well, that was stupid.
All the way up, or?
It will, yep. We're well secured with clamps. Now we can turn our attention to the jambs. All we need to do is snap the two sides of the jambs. The one with the wood attached is for obviously the opening where the trim is going to be attached, and then the steel is the backside. They both go into these floor brackets. Then that U-shaped assembly snaps into those brackets up there. Probably double check my height here to make sure that we're good. We're pretty much dead on. It's just trying to get it up in that square. I think my rough opening is a little bit too exact. This fits perfectly right underneath that bracket, but I am having trouble getting that tube up and into the square tube. It's kind of a tight fit. So I'm going to take off the top bracket, assemble it onto these tubes, and then put that whole rectangular assembly into the rough opening underneath the LVL header. That should work just fine. Just for safety's sake though, I'm going to scribe a little pencil mark to make sure I get it back in the right spot exactly. Got those two in no problem with the slightly revised technique. Now we just got to shim between the LVL and my rough header opening. That'll close this little bit of clearance between the plate and the top of that tube to really snug everything up tight. We'll make sure that everything is nice and level and straight up there, and then we can fasten that in. Then I need to plumb these guys in both directions, make sure they're nice and straight, and then fasten those to the subfloor with those 4 holes there. Before I get everything too snugged up though, I'm gonna get these guys plumbed up at least a little bit better. That way when I drive the shims in, these are already in the right place and I'm not fighting that extra tightness. I've placed all of the pairs of shims in and it is nice and snug up against the posts now. Now it's time to fasten. I had some of these left over from framing, Simpson 3-inch framing screws. I think they will work great. Perfect. I've bumped these guys around quite a bit and I think I finally got them in the perfect position. I checked that they are not outside of my opening on either side. At the top, these brackets come to the edge of the LVL, which is exactly 5.5 inch wide. So I made sure that this distance was 5.5 and the reveal or the gap between them is exactly the same all the way up. It probably doesn't have to be this exact because this is sort of the rough brackets. The finished jambs is what you'll want to get within, a 1/16 of an inch. So the pocket door has that perfect reveal all the way up. But I think we're ready to fasten this. I'm gonna use 2 of the beefy screws that came with this guy. Sort of use the screw to pre-drill my hole because this is kind of a big screw. I should leave a pencil mark to make sure I don't knock these off with the screw. If you don't get the screw centered in the hole, that's gonna mess you up. I only had these general screws for the other 2, so they're gonna have to do. Didn't have anything beefier than this. Cool, I don't think that's going anywhere. The frame is fully fastened in. The last little step here is to put our T-slot on the floor. This is what keeps the door kind of straight and not banging against the sides of the opening because the track does have a little bit of lateral movement that it lets the door kind of swing as it's moving down the line. And this little T-slot makes it straight. Of course, you gotta rip a groove in the bottom of the door to make this work, but it should keep things functioning a little bit better. This just gets centered in the opening and comes about 3/8 of an inch beyond the edge of the wood jamb here. I'm gonna start with my 3/8 mark. Got just under 2.5 inches, 2 7/16. So 1.25 inches should be the theoretical center. That's it for the rough Installation of the pocket door kit, that was really quite easy. It only took, I think, less than an hour, and that's with me filming it and moving the camera and everything else. So I'm really happy with this thing. It is extremely solid, definitely much better than what you could get in a big box store. Clearly built by someone who has experienced the big box pocket door hardware and was not happy with that. It's obvious that HD Pocket Doors cared a lot about the design and development of all this, and it shows in how easy it was to install. I almost forgot, I do need to reattach. This is what happens when you leave everything out for a few months through the summer. You get these little stinkers. Ugh, hate them. Anyway, I got to reattach these guys, the track covers. They're labeled per side. Then place this cardboard cover over our nice aluminum track to keep any sort of construction dust out of it. Speaking of the track, this is a soft open, soft close track, and I am really excited to see this thing work in person. I was kind of playing around with this thing earlier, and you can just sort of see how it, boom. Once it gets a door in there, that's going to be amazing. Does the same thing the other way as well. These are the brackets that attach to the door and they hang off those pegs. These are a nice machined aluminum bracket. Should make it really easy to install everything once we're finally ready with the door. Put the X with the X. Good snug fit, perfect. Next up for this is drywall, and once we get to trim, we're gonna mount the actual door. We picked up a $20 antique door on Facebook Marketplace. Not 100% sure that's the one I'm gonna use yet because it's gonna take some modification to get it to the right size and to get it to work with this. But that is one of the options. We'll see how that turns out, and of course there will be another video on the actual door installation and the hardware. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.